So it was an interesting day today. And I started out meeting with a nonprofit CEO who's very successful, met with several other nonprofit CEOs, and we all began to talk about, how do you navigate micromanagement from the board while, trying to maintain your autonomy and alignment with the organization goals. And so after all that discussion, I realized that it takes a delicate approach, and I have been living in that realm and have used several methods, to really navigate that approach in a way that is respectful on all sides. And so I want to share those 8 things, approaches with you. So one is open communication. You got to have open communication channels. So it's initiate open and transparent communication with the board and clarify the progress and the processes and the decision making and the rationale so that you can establish trust and confidence in your leadership. I used to meet with my board chair on a monthly basis, face to face, as well as my executive committee. So it requires some time. It's number 2 is set clear expectations. So establish some clear boundaries and expectations with the board regarding your role and to accomplish tasks effectively. If you are continually seeking board approval, it's going to be hard for you to get things done. And so that's why it's so critical really for you to have a annual operating budget, because the board approves that budget. And then once that budget is approved, you execute that budget depending on, what your procurement says. So that's very clear. And then number 3 is demonstrate competence and trustworthiness. It starts with you. You have to showcase your competence and your reliability through consistent results and informed decision making. And this can go a long way in helping and alleviate, micromanagement tendencies, as the board gains confidence in your ability. And then number 4 is educate your board. You got to offer insight into your methods and strategies to the board, ensuring they understand the rationale behind your actions and your decisions. But also, when I'm talking about educating your board, is educating them on what their roles and their responsibilities are, and educate them on what it means to be a board of directors. What is that? Trusteeship, oversight, ensuring necessary resources. Because what I do know, in the absence of them knowing what their role and responsibility is, they will create a role for themselves. And oftentimes that role is micromanaging, right? So educate the board. Number 5 is delegate responsibility. So you got to effectively delegate task and responsibility within the organization, showcasing your ability to lead and manage without constant oversight. Number 6 is periodic updates and reporting. So provide regular updates on progress and milestones to keep the board informed without, necessitating their constant involvement in day-to-day operations. You don't want their constant involvement in day-to-day operations. So develop a system for regular updates. Mine used to be called Board Buzz. I would send a Board Buzz out weekly to just weekly or bi-weekly kind of say, this is what these board members are doing. This is what we have going on over here. And that Board Buzz not only served as the update, it also highlighted behaviors that I wanted from board members. So you can use all of these tools. And then number 7 is establish metrics for success. So develop clear metrics for success and milestones, allowing the board to track progress without needing to intervene excessively. So when I talk about strategic plans and that strategic plan not becoming a document on the shelf, right? Or having a dashboard, then that is what I'm talking about, because you don't want them to be intervening excessively. This is going to delay your organization's growth. This is going to demoralize you as a CEO if you're constantly having to justify or you're constantly being micromanaged. So there's that. And then number 8 is seek out constructive feedback. It's okay to encourage feedback from your board on your approach and your performance. You know, you want to foster a collaborative environment while ensuring their input doesn't translate into over involvement, right? So if you are seeking feedback and you are looking for, feedback on your performance, I honestly love those conversations with my board. I loved going to them and saying, how did that go? At the end of meetings, not every meeting, I would do an quick evaluation where they would fill out a couple of questions that said, did they feel like that meeting was not a waste of their time? Was there anything that we could have done differently? All of those things. And as you are doing that, that is going to move them away from micromanagement. But because the goal is to maintain a healthy balance between accountability and autonomy and alignment with the board's expectation and organizational goals. There are many, many, many approaches to this. And I outlined these 8. And this doesn't go into the detail of it, but these 8 will help you. And I'll be going into more detail when I do the webinar, how to engage your board without seeming bossy or too bossy. Right. And so I just want to encourage you, because these conversations that I was having today was really, really around that. And I know that sometimes we all struggle with that. How do we get our board from micromanaging us? I have dealt with some CEOs and I've had some real horror stories, especially with some newer CEOs who really did not know how to set those boundaries. And oftentimes it's been newer CEOs who didn't know how to set those boundaries, and a new chair when they inherited you got a new CEO and a new chair, maybe not a new organization, but you got a new CEO and a new chair, and they're trying to find that balance. And sometimes in not really addressing and using those 8 methods, it can turn into a micromanagement situation. And let me say this for the board members out there. The CEO is not there to replace the board in its entirety, right? The CEO is there to manage the day-to-day operations of the organization. And so in managing the day-to-day operations of the organization, it requires a lot. And so the board is there to support that CEO in this journey. And there's a way to support that CEO in the journey without micromanaging, because oftentimes if you start to micromanage, you will demoralize your CEO of your nonprofit, and they will not feel like that they can get this job done. And so one of the great things that I'm going to say is, CEOs, you are in charge of that perception a lot. And if you can work on making sure that you are competent and trustworthy, it starts with B for brand, which is why I talk about build all the time. It starts with you. And so I want you to own the expertise that you hold, and I want you to hone that expertise so that when you walk into that boardroom or when you're dealing with your board members, you're walking in confidence. And that is the goal that I have for you. Half of this battle is confidence, right? Is projecting that leadership, is honing your leadership skills, honing your negotiation skills, honing your visionary skills, honing your time management skills. So a lot of this starts with you. And once you focus in on your productivity and your follow through and your confidence, the board will see that, right? And as you are giving everything that you have for this and they see you doing that, they, not everybody, and I want to be very clear, not 100%, right? There's no perfect world, but not 100% of them will move towards that. But the right people, the right board members will move towards that. And that's what this is about. This is engaging the right board members without seeming bossy. We're talking about engaging the right board members without seeming bossy. So if you are a CEO who may be struggling with that, maybe struggling with, feeling isolated, there are those out there who feel like they are isolated. I know when I sat in that seat, sometimes I felt very isolated, right? I felt like that I was sometimes in this by myself, even though I was meeting with my board chair on a monthly basis, my executive committee on a monthly basis. I still felt like sometimes that I was in it by myself. And so it is some other strategies that we will be talking about around that. And that's why you need that sense of community. You need other CEOs who are going through that. Again, the confidence building and overcoming that imposter syndrome, that B in brand, is going to take you a long way. And so really, when you start to think about, well, what is micromanagement, right? Well, how can you prevent that? It is a delicate process. We will get into that. But use those 8 methods. Open communication. Again, it's going to be so clear. Open communication with your board of directors, with your board chair. Clarify progress and processes. Don't make them guesstimate. Don't let them find out information through someone else. Share the information with them in an email, even if you say they don't read the email. That is not the point. You are sharing the information. You set those clear expectations, set those boundaries regarding what your role is. I am the CEO of the organization. I am your only employee. All the other staff are my employees. That is my role. I manage the day-to-day operations. And I need autonomy in order to do that. This is what I need from here's the clear expectation, particularly around finance. I need the board and the finance committee to work with me to develop a budget, right? And then once that budget is developed, make sure we have procurement policies in place. And then from there, I will manage this budget. I do not need to come to you to spend $1,000 on training. That's not something I need to do because you have approved the budget and given a training line item. I don't know who created this thing where you have to go to the board for every little expenditure that's happening. It amazes me how often that happens. Again, you have to demonstrate competence and trustworthiness. You got to educate the board because in absence of educating them on what their role is, they will make up a role, and that role is oftentimes micromanaging and trying to tell you what to do instead of understanding that you are a partnership, and as a part of that partnership, Their job is to ensure necessary resources, to approve the policies, to help you in accomplishing the vision for the organization. Again, delegating responsibility to staff and following up. If the staff is yours, they're yours, right? And if you have staff, delegating that responsibility. And if you don't have staff, right, is working with the board to ensure that these things happen. Now, I wish I would have known about virtual assistants when I was the CEO sitting in the seat, because for years, 20 years, guys, I did not have an administrative assistant. So I wish I would have known about virtual assistants back then. So if you don't know what a virtual assistant is, look it up, get yourself one as the CEO, especially if you are 1 or 2, 3 person shop. Get yourself on a virtual assistant. It will make a huge difference. And then provide them with reports. Just like I said, establish some metrics and then ask them for feedback, right, on how you're performing, on how you're doing, so you can partner, you can foster that collaborative environment. And so I hope this helps someone out there. And I just want to remind you to, again, sign up for that free webinar that's happening on January the 23rd at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. And it is how to engage the right board members without seeming bossy. And so with that in mind, I'm going to say, if you have any questions or anything, you can put them in the comments. I'll try to come back in and answer. But today was a doozy, starting out at 9 o'clock this morning and going to that time and talking about boards. And so I appreciate you, and I will see you later. Bye-bye.